Hi everyone! We cannot stress enough that you perceive the world with your own modus operandi, your own MO, your own lens, you might say. And there are many things that can affect these lenses, like your prior experiences, expectancies, beliefs, your own unique chemistry and biology, etc. So we can look at or hear the same stimulus as others, for example, but see or hear very different things. For the most part, we assume the opposite, that other people experience the world like we do. That is why people reacted incredulously when this image of this dress went viral. What color is this dress? About half the people clearly see this pictured dress as blue and black. The others clearly see it as gold and white. What is up with that? On the internet, this is often referred to as a visual illusion. That is actually incorrect. An illusion is a false perception, like a magician causing the audience to experience a false impression that he just cut a woman in half. But neither color perception in this case of the dress is false. One website even refers to this phenomenon as a delusion, which is clearly also not true. A delusion is a false cognition, a false belief, like believing that you are God. Instead, what we have going on here is an ambiguous stimulus, but one that appears less ambiguous than what it really is. Clearly, ink blots are ambiguous, in other words, can be interpreted differently, as can clouds, and even the famous face vase image. But what exactly is ambiguous about this dress image? When we show this image in class, until we have students raise hands, they can't believe that half of their fellow students looking at the same image see a different colored dress. In fact, each half is then looking at the other half incredulously, as if to say, "Are you crazy?" So if it is not an illusion or a delusion, what is going on here? Well, let's look at the leading theory today. The dress image is an especially great example of an ambiguous stimulus. It was taken with a lower quality cell phone camera, so it is somewhat washed out. The ambient lighting specifically is what is ambiguous. It also lacks any contextual information to indicate whether it was taken in daylight, natural light in other words, or evening shadows, which is more like artificial light. Full time, the brain, even when you are dreaming, by the way, is engaging in something called perceptual hypothesizing. What is it that you are seeing, hearing, smelling, etc.? The more ambiguous the stimuli, the more the brain has to hypothesize or fill in the missing information. So the brain has to infer the ambient lighting in the dress image immediately. If your brain inferred that it was taken in daylight, you see a blue-black dress. If your brain inferred that it was taken in evening shadows, you see a gold-blue dress. Your brain might switch back and forth between perceptions of the image, but it cannot see both at the same time. Why is this ambiguous lighting the leading theory? Because to date, it is the best predictor of how you perceive the dress colors. Not that we can ask you about the lighting your brain inferred, because that happens unconsciously, right? But check this out. I printed 2 copies of the same dress image, cut them out, and quite crudely added heads and legs. Then I pasted one over this broad daylight background, where most people see the dress as blue and black. Then I pasted the other over this evening background, where most people see it as gold and white. Yes, that's the same image, my friend, just posted on different backgrounds. Notice I said most, everyone. Not all of you will see both color versions by viewing the preceding images in which I messed with the backgrounds. This is a highly significant effect, but remember, perception is very complex. Your unique MO, your way of perceiving the world, is influenced by many other factors than just the assumed lighting. As one example of possible secondary effects with this phenomenon, some people have more blue cones than others. Cones are the visual receptors responsible for perceiving color, right? If you have an abnormally high number of cones that specialize in processing blue, this may cause you to perceive a blue-black dress regardless of the background. Likewise, if you have an abnormally low number of blue cones, you may see a gold and white dress regardless. An auditory example of an ambiguous stimulus is the Yanny-Laurel phenomenon, which also went viral on the internet. Listen, Which do you hear?
Yearly, 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 yearly.
A recent Twitter poll found that 47% of responders heard Yanny and 53% heard Laurel. But what's ambiguous in this recording? Actually, the frequency, in particular the mixed frequency of the sound waves in that particular recording. And frequency is perceived as pitch, right? Here are visual representations of the sound waves for the two words. Notice that the waves look similar in every way except for frequency. They have similar syllable counts, wave height, timing, and energy content. The sound of the two words have more in common than you probably thought. They only differ significantly in frequency or wavelength, right? And the recording that went viral was not the best quality either, so that even adds to the ambiguity. Your brain either pays more attention to the high frequencies, in which case you hear Yanny, or the lower ones, in which case you hear Laurel. For some people, it may switch between different playbacks, but again, you can't hear both at the same time. So check this out. If I play the recording after decreasing the high frequencies or pitch by 30%, listen.
Yearly, yearly.
Most everyone hears Yanny. And if I increase the high frequencies or pitch by 30%, most everyone hears
Laurel, Laurel.
Laurel. Also, we know that older people tend to lose some of their higher frequency hearing. Just as predicted, a higher percentage of younger people hear Yanny, and likewise a higher percentage of older people hear Laurel. So all of this shows pretty strong evidence for the frequency theory, right? But again, perception is very complex. Your unique MO, way of perceiving the world, is also influenced by many other factors. A particularly interesting example of a secondary influence in this case is familiarity. Familiarity with the names in particular. If you have a peep named Laurel, you might always hear Laurel, regardless of how I mess with the frequency of this recording. Likewise, if Yanny is one of your favorite musicians, you may always hear Yanny. Your MO, your unique way of seeing the world, is complex, unique, and influenced by so many factors, and these two ambiguous phenomena are particularly intriguing examples. Bye, everyone!